Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do another Swedish beer, and this particular beer is a collaboration between two breweries that you've seen me review numerous things from over the last couple of years. So the home brewery in this case comes from Stockholm, and they're quite a famous gypsy brewery in fact. So for this review we are going to go to Omnipollo. And we're having a taste of the Mazurka, which is a 5.3% German-style pils brewed in collaboration with Stigbergets Bryggeri, one of the famous breweries down in Gothenburg, or Gothenburg as you'd say in English. I'm pretty sure by looking at the can on this one, this beer is brewed at Stigbergets in Gothenburg. But it has that kind of typical Omnipollo artwork on it. But this is yet another beer that was released through the Små Partiers in Stigbergets on the 2nd of August 2019. I do have 2 or 3 others that you'll see me review from that release, but as always looking forward to trying this one. I don't get to review too many different German pils, German style pils and things like that these days, so it's cool to see that there seems to be a little bit more interest in German style beers here in Sweden. I've been reviewing a couple of Schwarz beers, a couple of Dunkels and things like that for you recently, so very curious to see how this one turns out. Of course these guys did a really nice Helles recently from what I remember actually. There was a nice Helles came out from Omnipollo just a couple of months back. So really looking forward to trying this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets and from Omnipollo. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future to both of those lists. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Omnipollo first off then, since these guys seem to be the home brewery even though it's brewed at Stigbergets. So Omnipollo was founded back in 2011 by Henrik Fente, who was a long-time home brewer, and Carl Grandin, who is a clothing designer. So the two met one day and they decided to start a brewery together after discussing how insular the craft beer scene was in Sweden and further afield. But they basically said they wanted to reinvigorate the craft beer scene in Sweden from a stylistic and from a gastronomic sense. So they felt that the partnership between a home brewer and a designer was really quite logical. But the name itself is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omnipollo of course being Spanish for chicken, and these guys are gypsy brewers, so they have no brewery of their own and they use spare capacity at other breweries. Most of their beers, quite a lot of their beers actually, or some of the bigger volume ones, are brewed down at the De Proefbrouwerij in Locriste Hefte in Ghent in Belgium. A lot of their stouts and things are brewed at the Stigbergets Bryggeri over in Gothenburg, and there's various other bits and bobs brewed all over the place. But today they currently export to around 20 different markets and they're constantly expanding. They've also got the Omnipollo's Hat in Stockholm as well, which is a collaboration bar with Pizza Hat. They've got some really nice pizzas there, and you can try some Omnipollo beers that you wouldn't get anywhere else. They've currently got, you know, there's a lot of different beers listed on their website. These guys have produced well over 150 different types of beers, if memory serves me correctly, and they're always they're always doing a vast array of styles as well. This brewery, of course, are quite well known for putting random flavours into their beers. They're very good when it comes to IPAs. One of my favourite IPAs from these guys, of course, is the Nebuchadnezzar. It's a really, really nice West Coast IPA, that, and there's also the Fata Morgana as well, if you prefer something that's a little bit more along the New England end of the spectrum. But their Imperial Stouts are always good. Those two IPAs are very good, and it's quite cool to see them experimenting a little bit with German style beers now as well. It would be cool to see how these guys would do with a Doppelbock. And the other thing that these guys are known for, of course, is putting flavour essence in their beers to give you these really random flavours in the Imperial Stouts. But a very, very good brewery who are both good at adding the adjuncts and doing the more purist brewing as well, in my opinion. So one of the Swedish craft breweries that you really need to check out. And I saw these guys out in Japan when I was there this time, so it was cool to see Swedish beer getting out there a little bit more. But anyway, that's all you need to know about Omnipollo just now. Let's move on to the other brewery then. So Stigbergets Bryggeri. So as I've told you many a time, Stigbergets Bryggeri are based in Gothenburg, and they were founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Richard Simonsson. So the pair own two bars that share the one kitchen. This is the Bar Chino and the Hagebjörns Cafe, which can be found on Linnegatan in the city, and these both opened back in 2007. So originally the idea was to brew a few beers that they could sell in the bars, but this led to them kegging the beer and then selling it on to other pubs, and eventually to bottling them beginning in November of 2014. The original beers that they were producing were mainly English and German styles, but more recently they started expanding into the kind of more hoppy American styles, and this is where they really made their name, in fact. The original head brewer was Ollie Anderson, who is one of the co-owners at OO Brewing, who you definitely need to check out as well, and he was replaced for a period of time by Barnaby Struve, who was one of the vice presidents at Three Floyds. They've also recently opened up a new brewery at Partihalarna in Gothenburg, where they can brew 5,000 litres of beer at a time, and they're beginning to work on some sour beers as well. Quite a few of those have been released already. But they also started selling their beers in the 440ml cans like this one, and this means they'll be able to export a lot more as well. I know they're exporting throughout Europe at the moment, but I think their beers are starting to get a little bit further afield than that. But they now have a brew team of Ollie Banks, who was formerly of Beavertown in London, and Lucas Monroyd, who used to work for All In Brewing, one of the gypsy breweries around Gothenburg, of which there's quite a few actually. So yeah, a brewery that really kind of has made their name. They did go, you know, their beers were really, really good under Ollie Anderson and Barnaby Struve, and then they had a few kind of teething problems, I think, when they moved into their new brewery, but the quality of the beers seems to have picked up again over the last little while. But it's definitely one of the Swedish breweries that are quite well known these days compared to some of the other ones, and one that you definitely need to check out. In particular, I would recommend the new and improved GBG Beer Week, the Amazing Haze, and I don't think it comes out too often, but Muddle was always a really quite nice beer as well. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Stigbergets and Omnipollo for the moment. If you want to learn more about either brewery, of course, you can check out the websites in the description below, and of course you can follow them both on Facebook and Instagram, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself, then we can get rid of the brewery notes. So this one is the Mazurka. It's, you know, the artwork on this one is quite musical. I do recognise the term Mazurka from somewhere, but it's not, you know, it's not coming into my head where exactly this is from. I don't know. But yeah, kind of, it's, I don't know if it's a classical European piece or something like that, maybe an old German or Russian kind of piece of music. It really, that's going to annoy me now. I don't know where it's from, but yeah, as I said at the start of the video, this one comes in at 5.3% ABV, and it's a German style Pilsner, which is a style that I really enjoy. I've been saying that on the channel for a little while actually, that I've been, you know, I've really wanted to see more breweries playing around with German beer styles, because everyone seems to be going for the IPAs and the pale ales and stuff like this. And of course, I got into beer when I was living in Germany, so I've always really appreciated the Helles and the Dunkels and the Doppelbocks and things like this. And the Pils, of course, is a really nice style of beer, although it was created by a German brewer who lived in Bohemia. So yeah. We've got a little bit ahead on this one, but we can let it just settle down a little bit, and I'm sure it will be fine. There we go. Yeah. So as you can see with this beer then, it's poured a nice pale golden straw colour. It is pretty clear, this one, although there is a bit of condensation on the glass, so it will look a little bit hazy to you guys on the camera. But pale golden straw colour, which to be honest is exactly what you would expect from this beer. There's a solid 2 fingers of a bumpy whitehead on this one. I would say it's a perfect whitehead as well, rather than being kind of creamy or anything like that. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. In honesty, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider the style of it, of course, and you can see the head is just starting to creep down there, which is kind of quite nice. I would say usually if you've got a German Pilsner, the Germans are very particular about this. The head should be foamy rather than bumpy, but maybe it's just the conditioning that it's had in the can, of course. But yeah, you can see that going down a little bit. We do want a little bit of head, but not a crazy kind of head as it was when it came out. But maybe I poured it a little bit too aggressively or something like this. But yeah, really nice looking beer, this one. So let's take a look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Yeah, straight away with this one, you're going to smell that nice kind of pale malty, Pilsner malt kind of quality in this beer. Usually when you homebrew a Pilsner, I think, if I remember rightly, it's about 40% Pilsner malt, 50% pale malt, usually the craft lager beers are. So for me, this one comes across as having a good little bit of a white bready note, but you can really smell the kind of crispness of that Pilsner malt coming out of this beer. It's a little bit biscuity. Yeah, it does have a little degree of sweetness to it. It's almost a little touch kind of soapy or something in its aroma too, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, bready, biscuity, maybe even a little touch woody or something like that as well. On the hoppy side of things, there's a nice little bit of a floral earthiness in there. It's definitely Hallertau or Tettnanger hops that are in here. It could be something a little bit more than that, right enough. They maybe could have used like Hercules or something like that. Or Pearl is the other one. It could have a little bit. The floral quality on this one is a little bit spicy and more kind of pronounced, if you like, than it would be from some of the other Pilsners that I've come across. So it could be that they're using one of the slightly higher alpha acid hops rather than just simply Hallertau or Tettnanger. It could be Pearl or Hercules, something like that. But yeah, I mean, nice bit of floral quality to it. It's got a little bit of that lighter grassiness too, a little touch of that slightly sweet earthiness, and you've also got some kind of citrusy qualities in there as well. But I mean, overall, the aroma of this one is pretty nice. The more that I'm smelling it, the more that I'm getting some more fruitiness out of it as well. It could almost have a little touch of there's something in my head wants to say there's a little touch of berry kind of qualities to this. It almost reminds me a little bit of some of the red fruity qualities that you get from the Enigma hop, actually. So there is just something in my head there. The other thing that it reminds me of a little bit is the Williamette hop, with some of the berry kind of notes you can get from that. So yeah, that's unusual, but definitely a little bit of an appley peary ester coming out of this one. And you've also got some of those lighter grassy qualities in there as well. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But this one is the Mazurka, a collaboration German Pilsner at 5.3% between Omnipollo from Stockholm and Stigbergets from Gothenburg, Göteborg. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty nice, just easy-going session beer. It's one of these ones, on first impressions, it's one of these ones that doesn't do anything surprising. It's just, you know, pretty well crafted, and you know, you can't really ask for much more than that. In fairness, when it comes to a Pilsner style beer, the thing that I would always rate this on would be how kind of authentic it is compared to the likes of Pilsner Urquell or, you know, the other lager beers that you can get in Germany itself. And this one does come across as being pretty authentic, to be honest with you. This one's definitely one of the crisper Pilsner beers that I've tried. Some of them, like, I've always found that Pilsner Urquell has a little bit more of that bready quality, and it's always a little bit more kind of hoppy and bitter Pilsner Urquell as well. This one is definitely a little bit more crisp in its mouthfeel, and it's not quite as bitter as some of the ones that I've come across before. But I do like how this whole beer goes together. This one, in terms of a Pilsner beer, this one gets a big thumbs up from me. And I always think it's a shame, as I said, a lot of people really just want the IPAs that are the juice bombs or the hop bombs or whatever. I think it's a shame that these German styles are kind of swept aside a little bit, because if they're done well, they're really pretty bloody good actually. My friend Peter over at the Clueless Drinker, he's a huge fan of the German traditional beers as well, so make sure you check out his channel. But I think this is one that he could really appreciate as well actually. I need to get on to him and tell him to pick up one of these. But yeah, this is a really nice, it's a really nicely done German Pilsner. It doesn't do anything surprising, but like I said, the main thing about this is just how well crafted it is. So thumbs up to Omnipollo and Stigbergets for pulling off this one quite well. So for me, middle of your palate then with this beer, you can feel there's a little touch of a that sort of pale malty bready quality in there. The biscuity Pilsnery malts in this one are remarkably smooth. They're almost very slightly oily as well. You can feel that the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, it does just dry out a little bit, but you start to get more and more of that kind of biscuity, almost, it's not quite strong enough to be caramel right enough, but you do get a little bit more of that kind of biscuity sweetness just emerging out of this beer the further that you go into the aftertaste. I like how that malt base goes together. That if you go just to the front corners of your palate and move in a little bit, there is a little touch of a woody quality in this beer as well, which is quite nice. So the malt base, again, it's pretty simple. It's definitely a little bit more oily and sweet compared to other ones that I've tried, but it comes across very, very nicely, I have to say. I do like the way that the malt base goes together in this one, and I like the crispness that this beer has too. In the back corners of the palate then, you've got a little touch of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it definitely gets a little bit more floral and grassy. There's a little bit of floral aromaticity on the front corners of the tongue. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind. Behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And for me, it's definitely got a bit of that kind of sharper, lemony, grassy kind of thing coming out of it, which is quite nice. There is a little bit of that peary apple ester, that sort of fruity, red fruity ester that I was picking up in the aroma definitely isn't coming out in the flavour in my mind, so I don't know where I was getting that from. But yeah, it's definitely a kind of more, it's more an appley peary ester, and then you've got that slightly sharper, almost lemony note from the grassy side of the hops too. But that's a really, really solid German Pils. Like I said, a little bit kind of more oily and sweet compared to some of the other ones that I've had from either from German breweries or whatever, but really well done, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. And it is cool to see two breweries that are quite prominent in the Swedish craft beer scene having a go at a kind of authentic German Pilsner. So yeah, an interesting one this. I would be interested to know which hops they've used in it. The other ones that they could have used, of course, could be Sats from the, or Žatec hops as the Czechs call them. Or the Styrian Goldings from Slovenia. Those could be the other things that are in there. I'd be curious to know whether it's Hallertau and Tettnanger, or whether it is actually ones that are a little bit more high alpha acid, such as the Pearl and the Hercules. But yeah, it has everything you'd want from the Pilsner style beer, so if you like this style, check this one out. As I say, I think the thing that sets this one apart a little bit is just how kind of the mouth, the centre of your palate just has a little bit of that oily quality to it. So, in terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely quite a light-bodied beer, this one, but at the top end of light-bodied. Carbonation is quite crisp on it. I would say the mouthfeel overall is quite wet. Yeah, definitely quite a wet and crisp mouthfeel. The malt base has a little bit of an oily quality to it. It is quite smooth at the same time. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think we're looking at about 25 IBUs in this one. Nothing to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, and it's got a nice little bit of a kind of sharper, fruity quality to it as well, which is good. But overall, a really, really solid Pilsner beer. Doesn't do anything unexpected, but just very, very well crafted, and you can't really ask for much more than that. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Mazurka, a German-style Pilsner at 5.3% by Omnipollo, brewed in collaboration with Stigbergets Bryggeri from down in Gothenburg. So yeah, an awesome beer, this one. A really nice, authentic German-style Pils in my mind. So until the next time, Slanger just now, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Omnipollo and Stigbergets as well. Do give me some other recommendations of Swedish Pilsners too. I would really like to review more Swedish and indeed Scandinavian or Nordic Pilsners too, because I think this is a style, there seems to be a lot of interest being generated in German beer styles once again here in Sweden, which is quite interesting. As I said, I've reviewed a few Schwarzbiers and Dunkels and things like that recently, so do give me some other German style beer recommendations from Sweden, Denmark, Norway and things like that too. I'd be interested to try those. But thank you again for watching, check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Mazurka from Omnipollo and Stigbergets. Slange, skål!